The Trump administration officially gave up on containing the coronavirus pandemic, even as the country set new records for daily cases and the White House faced its second outbreak. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The Trump campaign and its allies in the right-wing media have been desperate to recreate the 2016 election by manufacturing fake scandals and supposed gaffes they think could tank Joe Biden. For example, they thought they had a golden opportunity to shift the focus of the race last week when Biden made the shocking suggestion that we should maybe think about transitioning away from fossil fuels, which are rapidly killing the planet.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time.
That's
One
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay,
Because
we have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have.
Trump has no chill. He's like a guy on a first date saying, when we go back to my place, I hope you remember that I paid for dinner, Janet. Will you remember that? Will you? There's something especially pathetic about plaintive Trump. It's like watching the neighborhood dog that's always barking at neighbors and rifling through their trash, suddenly moping around with a cone around his neck. Will you please give me a treat, Ohio? Of course, what Biden said isn't even remotely controversial. 57% of voters say they support transitioning from oil to renewables, while only 28% oppose it. And let's not forget, large parts of the West are on fire, and sea levels in South Florida could rise more than a foot by 2045. Trump can deny climate change all he wants, but it'll be very real to him when Mar-a-Lago is underwater, literally, instead of just financially. Although it'll probably be fine underwater, since it already looks like a castle in a fish tank. At Mar-a-Lago, we offer first-class amenities like a golf course, a swimming pool, and free food flakes twice a day. And if you need a restaurant recommendation, just ask Old Timey Diver Man. So Trump struck out on his one attempt to change the focus of the race. Meanwhile, in that same debate, the president said the coronavirus pandemic, which is currently setting new case records and raging out of control, was basically over.
We're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better.
No, okay, but that's kind of like George Clooney telling you a restaurant has really good service. I mean, they treated me like a real celebrity. You had the best medical care in the world and an army of doctors around you 24/7 like a NASCAR pit crew fixing up a 76 Dodge Dart. Quick, just put some duct tape on the windshield. Even worse, as he was saying that, every single one of the states he name-checked, Texas, Florida, and Arizona, were seeing major spikes in COVID cases. Patients in El Paso are being airlifted to other hospitals because they're at capacity. 9 months into the outbreak, we're still setting records for new daily cases, with 85,000 on Friday alone, meaning about 1 in 4,000 Americans got COVID on just that one day, which is an insane statistic. That's like something you'd read on a really depressing Snapple cap. Along with the average person spends 2 weeks over their lifetime waiting for a traffic light to change. Oh, man, that's such a bummer. Oh, wait, what does this side say? Ugh, Diet Peach. This much is clear. Trump, White House has given up, while hundreds of thousands of Americans needlessly die from a virus that can be contained. The president and his aides are waving the white flag and telling you to fend for yourself. Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, admitted as much on Sunday.
We're not going to control the pandemic. We are going to control the fact that we get vaccines, therapeutics, and other mitigation
Why aren't we going to get
areas
control of the pandemic?
Because it is a contagious virus, just like the flu.
Yeah,
At this point, the mayor from Jaws would be an upgrade. At least in that movie, the mayor was in denial. He wasn't going around saying, look, sharks got to eat too. Now help me push these kids into the ocean. Since the outset of the pandemic, it's been clear that the president has no interest in doing anything other than whining about it. For example, as the country faces a once-in-a-century cataclysm that has sickened millions and put many more out of work, Trump has added a new refrain to his campaign rallies, which he repeated over the weekend and again today, complaining that the media won't stop talking about COVID.
We're rounding the turn. All they want to talk about is COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't be hearing so much about it. COVID, 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 COVID. Today, let's talk about COVID. That's all I hear about now. That's all I hear. Turn on television. Right? COVID, 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 COVID. A plane goes down. 500 people dead. They don't talk about it. COVID, 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 COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't hear about it anymore. It's true. COVID! COVID! Please don't go and vote. COVID.
What's up with that voice? Why is he shouting the word COVID like a suburban stepdad calling his teenage son down for dinner? COVID! COVID! Dinner's ready. COVID! I made jambalaya! COVID! 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 Well, then why'd he leave? Why'd your real father leave, COVID? COVID! COVID, As he was saying that, the White House was dealing with a second COVID outbreak. This time in the vice president's office, about 800 Americans are dying a day. Of course, it's the #1 story. If that fake plane crash you made up was happening every single day, then that would be the main story too. No matter what's going on in the world, Trump will only be happy if every time you turn on the evening news, the top story is handsome president wows nation with dance moves. When, if anything, he looks like a serial killer trying to wriggle out his straitjacket. I mean, my favorite is when he just moves his arms back and forth like he's softly fighting off an old mugger. Give me your wallet. I'm not going to let you do that. It's the dance you're doing when you're trying on a new jacket. I just want to make sure I can get stuff off a high shelf. Also, why are you making up a fake plane crash? Is this the same plane that had all your imaginary anarchist thugs on it, too?
We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane, it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that.
A person was on a plane, said that there were about 6 people like that person, more or less. And what happened is the entire plane filled up with the looters, the anarchists, the rioters, people that obviously were looking for trouble.
They were wearing dark uniforms, and to cover their tracks, they crashed the plane and parachuted to safety. I saw it in a documentary about the Batman. We love the Batman, don't we, folks? Don't we? Because he's got the cape, he's got the cowl, the whole deal. Suburban women, they love the Batman. We've had more Batman under my administration than any other in history. Obama only had the one Batman. So rude, his Batman. Yelled at the sound guy. Have you seen Obama's Batman lately? Now look, gained a lot of weight. Fat Batman now. Not my Batman. Not my Batman. COVID! This may be a rhetorical change, but it's not really much of a change in policy since the Trump White House has, from the beginning, decided to forfeit and let the virus run rampant across the country. Just last week, Dr. Anthony Fauci said he hadn't spoken directly with President Trump in a while and added that Trump stopped going to coronavirus task force meetings months ago.
When was the last time you had the president at one of these task force meetings?
At a task force meeting, that was several months ago, Chuck, several months ago.
Donald Trump, why, I haven't heard that name in years. Poor guy, he must feel like Kevin Smith's stylist. Just please, try the long pants. Just try, it's winter, Kevin. Please? Oh, look at this. This is when Kevin Smith was on. He gave us a joint. we still have it. Thank you, Kevin. That's right, Trump hasn't been to a coronavirus task force meeting in several months. I guess he's been too busy, I don't know, sparring with an invisible punching bag. Months ago, Trump decided instead of providing any leadership at all, he just let states fend for themselves and then blamed the so-called blue states for doing a bad job, which A, isn't even true, and B, is disgusting. I mean, can you imagine Barack Obama telling a red state to go screw itself during a crisis? You can't. Idaho. More like, I don't know. You say potato, I say, off. But until now, the Trump White House has at least lied and pretended their goal was to contain the virus, proclaiming victory multiple times over the course of the outbreak.
Thanks to President Trump's historically aggressive containment efforts, we've actually contained the spread of this virus here in the United States
We have contained this. We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight. So far, it looks relatively contained. And we don't think most people, I mean, the vast majority of Americans are not at risk for this virus.
It is being contained. And do you not think it's being contained in this
I'm
country?
not a doctor, I'm a lawyer.
Well, but you said it's not being contained. So are you a doctor or a lawyer when you say it's not being contained? That's
The
false.
virus
You
is
just said
spreading-
something that's not true.
Miss you, Kellyanne. No one was better at being wrong and condescending at the same time. She's like the Dowager Countess if Maggie Smith was from Long Island and flunked out of community college. I like my tea served the proper way, with gin, rum, vodka, and tequila. I hope that tape gets replayed over and over for the rest of Kellyanne's life. She's like a pilot on the Hindenburg saying, "Do you not think we're landing safely? Are you a pilot?" Oh, the humanity? I think we're a little tired of that sentiment. It's been clear from day one that the president and his party don't care about the hundreds of thousands of Americans who have died and the millions more who've gotten sick and lost their jobs. They were willing to stomach all of that for a 6-3 conservative supermajority in the Supreme Court. Trump and his aides are surrendering to the virus and telling Americans you're on your own. So I guess if you live in a swing state and you're watching this, I would just like to say,
Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania?
this has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. Now more than ever, if you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.